Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. A quorum is present. The meeting is duly noticed and duly constituted. First order of business is approval of the agenda. May I have a motion? The second, add, subtracts.
Yeah.
Okay. Say it.
You're adding your two reports as well.
Oh, thank you very much, Shauna. That would go under resolutions B and C.
I think
B.
we're going to make this B, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Which one's that?
It's from the CSC. The Ocean View
Okay.
recommendation.
So the CSC recommendation for the lower Ocean View.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's B, Shauna. And then C will be the mayor's recommendation for leak test. And D will be mayor's recommendation for, what was it again?
The water.
No, that was the leak test.
There's a map.
The map, full map.
Too many mayor's recommendations.
Somebody's got to do it. Okay, so can I have a motion? Got a motion in a second. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call for those in favor and opposed. Carries. Public participation. Professor Ando. Okay, you don't get a chance for quite a while now.
Yeah, it's okay. You have to
Okay.
sit through.
Delegations? None?
No.
Excellent. Minutes. Page 3. What is the difference between a meeting of council and a regular meeting of council?
Well, most meetings of council are regular meetings of council, unless you choose to have a meeting on a day which is not normally a
Then
regular
it's a special meeting.
Then it's a special meeting,
So it's
provided that you followed all the
Yeah.
procedural requirements.
So it's just the difference between a special meeting and a not special meeting?
Yes.
In other words, do we need the word regular?
Generally not, because it's always going to be regular unless it's special, in which case you're going to say special. It's a special meeting.
I'm not suggesting that would be a change to the council procedures bylaw, but it's just every word we can get rid of would be good for me. So the minutes on page 3, leaving aside the word regular, on the public participation pieces A, B, and C, do we note actions there, or do we only ever receive those for information?
I don't know, what have you done in the past?
Well-
What's been your practice? Because there have been a couple where there have been requests made in that period, and they've been discussed a little bit, but I'm not sure that really we had firm action items come out of them.
Yeah.
But they probably need to be revisited in that
Well,
respect.
these 3 particularly do, yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we want to handle that? Do we want to?
Well, these minutes are correct, aren't they?
Yeah, the minutes are
Yeah.
correct. I'm just wondering if an action came out of them, or if we're going to need to do that in unfinished business.
Well, they each have a request,
Yeah.
so that's
maybe-
the action.
Yeah, but no,
Technically speaking, they're
Nobody else
asking
has signed
council. No, but they've asked council, we haven't made a decision.
okay, well, we'll talk
So-
about that in business arising then.
That would be good.
Okay, fine. So, anybody else? No? Okay, motion to approve. Second. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. So, business arising. We'll start with the action items. No, let's start with the 3. So, if we go to 3A, Tony Cox asked us to consider half funding the plaque that he proposed should be in underneath the existing plaque. And damn it, I can't find the thing. I even brought it. But you know what it looks like.
Okay.
It's a little 5x7 plaque. So, I mean, funnily enough, 3 of the 5 people directly impacted are here today. I know Scott's already told me that he doesn't want his name on any plaque. What about you guys?
I would share that opinion. In fact, I was thinking about it afterwards, and I thought if they really want to give some recognition and point out what a long drawn-out process it was, I might pay mention to the number of councils that have actually beaten this dog around the block. Oh,
Did you say that?
sorry.
I'm sure you'll be speaking metaphorically, of course.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I suggest we may want to do, I don't disagree with the sentiment, but maybe we say something like the council of 2012 to 2014. Or not at all.
I think it goes back to '08.
Actually, it does go back a long ways.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
The only objection, and I don't have it, I mean, I wasn't on council at that time, so I really don't know how to say, but my objection would be to the word visionary. That would be the only thing that, yeah, that would be my,
Well, that's a given.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
But I think the council, all those councils deserve credit for.
Maybe not for that, but for many other things, yes.
Yes.
well, I mean, the fire hall doesn't have any plaques on it, I don't think.
No.
Is equally good.
No.
So-
Yeah, the only reason there's a plaque there is that the funding source insisted on it. I
Well,
would,
that was with contractual agreements.
yeah. Yeah, they even specified who makes it. Yeah, and as you know, I'm very displeased with the plaque. Got 4 big brass screws through it. But we need a response.
How much is this?
$175.
Yeah,
Per side?
yeah, the cost is nominal. The question is, do we want anything more? It's not going to match. It's the size is
Well, I mean, you
disproportionate.
think about the 175, they would have offered to do the whole thing. I mean, at the
No.
end of the day.
But no, the question is also, do we want it?
Well, I think that is the question.
The cost is irrelevant.
That was my point. To me, I think when plaque is already there, it's acknowledged all the folks. And
Yeah, I mean, it says the mayor. It happens to name a different mayor than actually did anything. In fact, speaking as that mayor, I'd prefer my name not be on that thing.
well, now we're going a whole weird direction.
Well,
So,
I'm not doing despite accusations. I'm not doing this
I don't
for
think that-
seeing my name on a brass plaque.
I think it's the fact that it was done by council, period. And it was an initiative went on through municipal councils for several years. It's as simple as that. So it's not a bad choice to say do nothing, leave it alone, or add something to it.
Okay, well, those are the 3 options. Thanks.
There you go.
Which one do you want?
Well, I prefer to do nothing, but that's
Okay.
just me. You know, I listen to Fred and Ron more than anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, you're the guys with the skin in the game here.
that's fine.
So nothing? You good with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Helen?
Nothing?
Okay, I'm fine with that as well. So
I think the ship has sailed.
yeah, I think what I will. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, in terms of, how many plaques shall we go? The visionary volunteers that
Yeah, one-
did so many thankless hours in doing this, and it goes on and on.
Yeah, of course. I mean, a brass plaque, more or less, is not going to
Yeah.
make a difference there. Okay, I will talk to Tony. Action item, just to break the news gently, because it was good sentiment. But there are other signage needs in the village.
Tony means well.
Oh, I don't disagree with the sentiment, but it just doesn't fit in with this council's ethos, perhaps. I think maybe. Okay, so let's move on to the next request from the delegation, which was Michael Broughton. I asked Michael to summarize his presentation, which he did at about lunchtime today. Did he copy everybody on that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What I suggest we do is bring that forward to next council as a recommendation, which will be written by staff, I would suggest. So I have actually put that in the IRR system, requesting a staff review and recommendation on marijuana dispensaries and
It truly does nip it in the bud.
Oh, God.
I think I used that one. I don't think you're allowed to use my pun twice in the same day.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
All right.
Yeah, you see, here. Okay, so the point is, I suppose we need our options, Peter, and then council must determine, do we want it, do we want to encourage it? So I'll just give you, for instance, Bowen is encouraging grow-up facilities. They see it as a revenue opportunity.
Isn't this as much as anything else that this is on private lands, not controlled by us, and the Strata Council clearly has the veto power, and they vetoed it.
I don't think they can veto. If the person is doing something legal and it's correctly zoned, I don't believe they have the ability. The only thing is that the municipality would have to have it within their business license issues. No, we don't have
We
business
don't have one,
licenses.
so we're back to the commercial enterprise.
We don't have business licenses today, that's true. Or we elect to do nothing.
I'll come back with the report listing options, and there may be a
Painful use of
requirement
your
to get
time.
some legal advice or
Yeah.
whatever, so
Yeah.
we'll look
Okay.
into that.
I think it's important.
I do too. Given the parties involved,
That too. I'm thinking more about, making, you don't have susceptible age kids anymore, but
I
others
think
do.
the parties involved are from a legal background.
I think the time to debate the options will be
Yep.
when it comes
Yeah.
forward.
Fine. Good, okay, so you got that, Zora?
What's the
Staff
options
will
about-
produce, staff to produce a report on options and recommendation.
I would emphasize the recommendation.
Yeah, I've already asked for them. So just to follow up on that. And then the third one also deserved follow-up, and that was Tina Schneider asked for a reduction in the $40
I was going to cover that under fees and charges discussion.
Okay.
Can preempt that here.
No, let's do it all
Either
together.
or, what is?
Let's do it all together when we get there.
All together. Well, I think my one on this is that, the community groups that we saw today, many of them had representations for hall use at gratis. And this particular group probably out-tenures everybody that came today. And, their rationale seemed fine enough, and I'm very cognizant that we were about to do the fees and bylaws, fees and charges thing, which I don't want to disrupt. But I think if council makes a one-off decision, although it seems everyone's a one-off decision, this would be one that is outside of the normal frame. And council may choose to counter the fees and charges discussion and just accept it. I think to chase our citizens away is not what we want to do.
That's a good point. We own the hall. The community owns the hall. Okay. The only cost to the community of an event like that is cost of cleanup or any damage, closet and all that kind of stuff.
And
And so if
utilities.
they're willing to deal with that somehow, then
Oh, we'd
there
be
should be
giggly
no.
if everybody doubled their attendance and cost us nothing,
Yeah, that's right.
so.
Peter?
In anticipation of this conversation, I utilized the free legal advice program through the MIA. Asked the question because it pretty much confirmed what my thoughts on it were. I just want to make sure, but you cannot do one-off ad hoc waiving of fees. You have to provide. You have the ability to categorize, set out who can have what rights, and we already do that. If you want to provide exemptions for certain classes of people, you can do that. You can say they don't have to pay anything, but it has to be in your bylaw. You cannot do ad hoc waiving of fees, and it's an area where councils and boards get caught in all the time. So one option that you could look at is, so for example, I was thinking about it when listening to all these groups and talking about giving them in-kind waiving of fees. So
They're putting it in writing and they've got precedent.
right. So what I would suggest for that, it would be something along the lines of you create a class or a classification that says groups that are recipients of municipal grants or community grants who would otherwise have to pay, if that's part of their grant, they fit that class, and therefore they get the exemption. If they're not, then they get whatever class they otherwise would fall into. The other thing I just thought I'd note, in looking at the fees and charges, I think that their monthly expense is like $25 a month for that group, which is the lowest rate that I think we offer. So it's either that or, you have to fit them somehow within a class that doesn't
Yeah.
have to pay. So those are, essentially your options.
Yeah.
I think they said they're okay to pay the 25, but not the increase
Yeah, it
to
was a
40.
bigger number.
It was 40 that they were
Yeah.
objecting to, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely, it's fairly obvious that we can't give we can give permissive exemptions to a class, just like you do for taxes. The issue is that if you're a group that has not applied for a community grant, whether in kind or cash, you're a bit up the creek now. Yeah, the issue is everybody would like to get the hall for free. I'm sure the play school would love to be given the use of they're also a community group, serving probably about an equal number of people. So the argument is unfortunately spurious that they're a community group, because they're all community groups, except for the very few people who use our hall are not. So, yeah, well, let's talk about it in more depth when we come up with the. You don't want to call it fees and charges, do you? You want to just call it charges by law. Fees by law.
But Peter, your piece here, which is the loophole, is the, let's call it the special class or exemption thing.
Mhm.
And let's use the community group application as a trigger for that. These people have missed the boat.
But it's not every recipient of a community grant
Okay,
that
so we
requires it,
lump
right?
them in then.
You know, it's just those who are receiving, as part of their community grant, an in-kind contribution. Instead of giving them cash, we're giving them free hall rental.
So are you offering to rewrite a bylaw
I'm already in the process
of this one?
of the, so it hasn't come forward, so I've just,
Okay.
there's a few things that I've
So-
been made aware of that I'm
Okay,
adding in,
so we should just stand this one down and lump it in
I
with the
think
other
so.
ones. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
But
so-
it doesn't address the volleyball issue, really.
It doesn't, because Tina Schneider did put in an application, but that was for the caroling team. So,
But Peter said that it didn't have to be a community grant applicant, it could be
an in-kind.
an in-kind deal.
No,
But I'm good, so I'm
That's not what I
gonna leave it
got.
with him
no,
to be creative here.
that's not quite what I was saying. I was saying that,
I wanted to hear what I wanted to hear.
yeah, no, and I was just, trying to come up with ideas, and they're not fully formed, and so I should probably come back with some suggestions for this. But in a nutshell, to address the fact that you've got community grants, and some of the granting is of in-kind use of the hall for free, we could put that into the bylaw, that qualifies for an exemption. Coming up with an exemption for the volleyball group would be a different matter, would be a more difficult matter, because they don't fit within that class of community grant recipients. So if you want to create a different class that's eligible for exemptions, you're at liberty to do so. But how you define that class, who would fit in it without going down that slippery slope of everybody's in it, then I don't know.
We do have class rates for insiders and outsiders, village groups and non-village groups. Well, it may be that we have to adjust the in-village group, and that's the cost. And that's what it costs to open the hall for an hour, or whatever the number is. Because, everybody could make, so how big do you have to be? 10 people? 6? 50?
Actually, so can we discuss this while we're reviewing the fees bylaw?
Yeah, although I'm hearing that that's not really in what we're going to be seeing in the fees.
Well, it would be good to get some direction from you in terms of what I
Yeah.
put in there, so that I'm not coming back again and again.
Yeah.
So I think Peter's covered the fees and charges and looped in the bylaw, but that leaves the volley group out.
Because the fees and charges were increased by some number that staff came up with, and I personally don't know where these numbers came from, because some of them were increased marginally and some of them were doubled. So I don't know where.
Yeah, and I wasn't part of that
Yeah,
process, so
so-
I'm not aware. I'd have to go back and check
Yeah,
as
so-
to how we got from 25 to 40. If that's a new number, then,
Yeah.
I could certainly look into that. And
We may have to do that, but let's see when we get there.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So that was the,
How are we responding to the volleyball group? Because it looks like they're shut out on the opportunity.
I don't think we know that yet. So, it may very well be that we roll back the fees, or I don't know.
and at the moment, it's $25.
It hasn't.
Yeah,
it
okay,
hasn't
okay.
changed.
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
can I have a volunteer, community portfolio holder, to just send a note to Tina,
Yeah.
saying that we're aware of it, we're working on it, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Good with that? Okay, thanks. Okay, so let's go to the action items then. Number one, number one is carryover. We're not going to spend any time on that. Number two, emergency planning committee to be struck and the emergency siren deferred to that time. Greg?
think we're trying to get past the budget time so we can strike the emergency bonding committee, so we're still on hold.
Good. Staff to bring forward the terms of reference for the Trees, Views and Landscapes Committee. Peter, remind us.
Yeah, no, I've got some work to do on that still.
One thing that I mentioned it in the CSC this afternoon. In my walks around the village, and I go both in village and out, a lot of people are cutting down trees and then just pushing them off the edge. So somebody on Bayview, the new house that's been building for a long time, they obviously cut down some view trees that were in their way across the road, and they were bucked and just pushed down a lot. 6 trees, big trees. They're just sitting there now. It's presumably Modi reservation, but they're a fire hazard. They're fuel. Plus. So, the guys who cut down our trees, the municipal trees, they just put them there. They did clean them off the path, but they just put them there. I would suggest that the bylaw, whether it's the fire bylaw, the trees bylaw, I don't know which bylaw, needs to stipulate that when you take down a tree, you have to take it away.
What has there not been any kind of a past practice in terms of volunteer groups or just others in the community? Do you ever have any kind of a sort of a community cleanup day or fire smart day where you go around and do that kind of stuff, or do people not, say, hey, free firewood and take it away?
This is too difficult to get to. It's always down a bank somewhere, and the Centennial Trail is, it's a 2K walk.
Yeah.
We don't, and we want to.
Tree committee declines every time when it's just a cut and buck. It's cut and clean, and it's haul away.
Well, so I think this may have been a pirate thing, and so how are you going to get somebody to fess up that it was under their auspices the tree got taken down? Almost you have to wait for the neighbours to say, yeah, we saw who cut it down.
Well,
I mean, I would suggest that when the Trees Views comes to maturity, that if we find out the contractor that did it, they get banned for a year, because we just can't have people putting this fuel load down in the village. Yeah, it's in a year's time. It's going to be, and it's on the highway. All it takes is a cigarette.
I think there are provisions in the fire bylaw that you could use to be a lever to solve this problem.
Okay, well, it may be a combination. It may be one or the other. But as you're looking through the terms of reference of the committee, which is not struck, is kind of struck yet. We thought we struck it, but we didn't. We have to clean it up at some point. Right now we have a tree committee. This adds the views and landscapes component, which I don't really even know what that means yet.
But on that topic, there's one application that's outstanding.
There's
And I
3
think-
actually that are in the works.
I was aware of one.
Okay.
And I think in that one where the background work has been done, I think the chair needs to organize an open meeting and amend the report that's there. I believe that's the 2 things before it comes back to council.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be fine if I had a chat with the chair to get
Yeah, I've been
that?
meaning to have a chat with him in any event, because we've got to go over some stuff and come up with a new process. But I noted that particular application had an approval end date of 2019, so I assumed that there wasn't really that much urgency.
On the one part of it, yes, and that was a financial situation. So the idea was to give them a period to do the work.
Mhm. Okay. Well, I'd appreciate it if you leave it with me a little bit longer.
Okay.
Give me a chance to get together with Simon and go over.
The birds are gonna be nesting soon.
Pardon me?
Yeah,
Oh.
we have a
okay.
moratorium period between when and when.
So actually, with respect to that, somebody mentioned that, and so I looked for a policy, and there's no general policy that I could find, but there was, with respect to a particular application, there was a moratorium put on, it has to be between this date and this date, but that was only with respect to that application, so just a heads up.
The responses since that application have been all no cut during that period too.
And has that just been a procedure that has been followed by the tree committee then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is, we have an opportunity to catch a lot of these things. Okay. Mayor Burt to speak to CN regarding safety aspects of all rail traffic through the village. We can take this one off the list because what's resulted is the fact that there's a CN tool that the fire department is, I believe, going to subscribe to that essentially allows you to determine what's on any train in Canada. And I think that will address, if there's an incident, they'll certainly be able to tell. Unless anybody reminds me what the real driver for this thing was, without me going back to
Yeah,
the minutes.
yeah, the issue was the hazardous materials that be, excuse me, coming along the rail cars,
Yeah.
and whether or not they were putting them too close together in oxidizers and flammables and stuff like that. When I think CN is saying you're not taking any shipments of certain chemicals that use.
They say that, yeah. They say that they would tell us if there was any hazardous going through Lions Bay. On the other hand, that was then amended to say that they wouldn't store it at the marshalling yard at Brunswick. The issue is that there's no government liaison person right now. The last person lasted about 3 months, and the person before moved on. So there's nobody to call. Better leave that one on there. Although, can we amend it just by adding, in terms of ITO, materials carried. And, yeah, in terms of materials carried. Also from December 15th, CAO de Jong to review the fees bylaw 497 before it comes to third reading, which I'm taking it as read that that's what we're going to be talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Okay, so unfinished business. No takers. Reports. Staff. Public Works Manager update February 10th, 16 on page 9. Anybody got anything?
I don't.
I don't. Helen? Okay, motion to receive. Second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Report received. Public Works Manager Key Performance Indicators, page 13. Interesting as far as it goes, but I would like to see trends, year-to-year trends. Nikki does mention it in words, between 2014 it was this and 15 it was that. I don't think we had accurate stats before that, so this would be the start of a trend analysis. So my only suggestion, therefore, is that that we amend this recommendation to add the words "and published" at the end.
Excuse me.
Is that good? Leave it up to staff to decide how. I think, Peter, we're getting close to the point where under some municipal service or something, there's a KPI section. We've got the water thing. We've got the this thing. We're slowly building up the portfolio of metrics.
In the annual report and gate post.
And I know Nikki mentions in the annual report, certainly. I'd like to turn this into a graph before we do that. But this is good stuff. This is a great story. Our diversion rates are better than metros. And that's a whole bunch of condo-dwelling, latte-swilling urbanites. And we're doing better than them.
So are we on track to meet the government?
Well, that I don't know.
Okay.
Because if you put a gun to my head, I couldn't tell you what that was. I believe it's zero waste. That's the name of the committee.
Okay.
So let's say we're heading in that direction. Okay. So motion to receive as amended. You got the amended resolution. Second. All in favour? Opposed? Carried. And on to the water consumption rates 2015 versus 14. Same again. This is very hard to determine anything. Clearly it's going down. This needs to be graphed. Now this kind of information is currently published in a slightly different format on the website. By the way, when is it getting updated?
What?
The water consumption. 10th was the last time I saw it.
I have it all in.
I didn't want to ask you today because I knew you'd be busy. So I suggest we receive the report.
Well, I think with a comment, I think it's absolutely stunning when you look at the percentage changes from 2014 to 2015. We're advised that public consultation probably wasn't going to get much of a result. In fact, you'd have to have some enforcement. And I think everybody pulled together on this one, and we ended up with outstanding results.
A lot of this is leak fix, to be fair, but that's also because we acknowledged we had leaks. You know, previously it was not acknowledged. And in the recommendation, my recommendation down a little bit later, I actually track the leak rate, and that is that's the good news story too. So once again, great story, massive response. I mean, look at the difference between August and July in 2015. Consumption went down in August. That's unheard of, and yet people responded.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can be proud.
Yeah, I think council had three things going for us. The IC came up with some ideas, staff implemented what they could, and the public responded. I mean, how could you ask for better?
Yes, and it's 3.5, and that is that Public Works, led by Nikki, really actually attacked the problem hard.
And that brought the residents around to doing their part as well.
It ruffled a few feathers, that's for sure, but we had to do it. I'll just reiterate for the record that had we not, based on last year's consumption and this year's supply, we would have run out twice. Okay, so motion to receive as presented, no amendments, anything? Fred, you didn't want to say anything, add anything?
I think it's done enough.
Okay, good. Second, all in favour? Opposed? Carried. Good, congratulations to Nikki in absentia. Mayor has nothing, council?
My first one, which is CIA. We dealt with that. The other one, B, was the library. And I put this on with Bill in advance of both Helen and I seeing the chairperson of the library. So I think that's in motion. And I think just to recap the rest, beyond the minor financial ask, there was some PR work through the e-post and perhaps some help in organizing an event.
Well, I think there's a larger issue that we need to discuss, if not now, soon, and that is the future of the library. I believe we need a library. I think we need to bring it into the modern era.
I think a big part of that is when I had my meeting with the chairperson, it was the main drivers, personnel-wise, are becoming tired and fatigued and somewhat disillusioned. So some young blood needs to come to there. I proposed, and I don't know what the possibility is, but I presume we do have some students here throughout the week, and it might be a community time when for the off things they can do their homework or do whatever they do. But I think listening to her then and now, the patronage other than the one key day is quite nominal. So you ask the questions like, why aren't the realtors serving coffee over there to show off our buildings? Why aren't other groups doing the same thing? A whole bunch of things. So I'd like to help them, but I think at the end of the day, everybody goes past the library is open sign and keeps driving.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's because all they have in there is books.
All I have is books.
Well, they're going to need to show some leadership. Either, as you say, it's...
They need a revitalization, which has to come from their leadership.
Yeah. I have had, not in this year's budget, but I've been asking constantly for budget for PC carousel, to more for a larger communication piece, to drive people there to go and check their email. You know, the email resistant residents.
When you mentioned that today, that didn't fly very far.
Yeah, I know of at least one resident who refuses.
So,
but maybe he wouldn't do it anyway.
So my proposal on this is we've got our ear to the ground now.
Yeah.
The budget piece is coming up on the 1st. We know that the 35th is coming. Let's keep in touch with them. That would be Councillor Watterson.
Yeah, we've talked about
And-
some ideas that would
And you
help.
want to do it, so why don't you diarize it and bring it back in 2 months? Because I'm with Carl, I don't want to see some of the volleyballers, I don't want to see them go either.
What they had also asked is to see if there could be a greater presence on the website. So with regards to the library as well as the Historical Society, to have it as a, under, I think that we have, where the Arts Council is, to also have links to these
Mhm.
different groups. So how do we get that going?
Well, yeah, we hear about the website update. I believe that I saw the budget removed, the $10,000 for the populating of the new template that's apparently sitting there waiting for its content.
No, I don't think the budget was removed. I think there was a budget in 2014 or 15 that still perhaps is not spent, and we had to ask for an additional budget
That's
on
right.
top of that. That was removed.
There was a 14 budget, and we went from nowhere to where we are, which was the old platform. It was not good.
No, but Haley said that there is a new one
The real one.
ready to go somewhere.
There's a
It just
next
needs the-
version?
No, I think it's an entirely new platform.
Yeah.
Oh.
But it just needs population with the actual content, meaning cut and paste.
Well, I guess then for all of us, it's not just the library questions, it's a whole group thing. So,
Yeah, I think it's not as simple as taking what's on our current website and populating what was previously constructed on what's currently a hidden URL, which I've looked at briefly and thought, okay, this needs a lot of work. So it's not that simple.
Doesn't surprise me. Yeah, I mean, not library design, website design happens to be what I actually do and have done for the last 20 years. And it's not simple. It needs to be done right, otherwise nobody's going to come. But we do have web stats that I've been asking for some time as a KPI. Why? Not because it's a whim and I like getting stats. So we can see what the demand is, what kind of information are people going to the current website. Even though it's very hard to find things, you have to know your way down the rabbit hole to find the calendar, for example. Nobody's fault, that's just the way that it was provided to us.
I can say that my own experience in the last couple of years at the SLRD was we did a complete overhaul of our website because it was terrible. And but we had a person who wore a hat called Communications and Grants, and so she was a communications specialist. That's what she was hired for. Well, she didn't get around to doing that until spending a year on grants, but she undertook a real process in terms of researching the different platforms and what kinds of things you want to have on a website, particularly if you're a municipality or local government, and really identifying best practices from other communities and going through a process of consultation, both with staff and with the elected officials, because and it can involve, if we're talking about having other groups as well that are community based that council's funding, then it may be appropriate to include them in that kind of consultation as well, although that would be sort of, on the periphery of that discussion. But certainly there's a lot of things that can be done, but I think it needs to be a real exercise that everybody puts on their thinking caps and contributes their thoughts and ideas, and we come up with what the website really needs to contain, and then we look at how do we structure it so that it has a good look and feel, it's user friendly, but it has all those things that we want to have, because you can go all the way from it's just an information repository to, well, you can pay your taxes on it, which most communities have these days. So, but then that has an expense associated with it in terms of setting up a merchant account and all the rest of it, which Carl probably knows more about than any of us sitting here. So,
Well, yeah, I mean,
but-
it's not rocket science these days anymore because the templates, the best practice has been established. So, I mean, my answer to that is we'd copy the SLRDs or we'd copy somebody's who we liked.
Yeah, or a smaller municipality, and there are a few that were identified as really good ones that we copied to some extent. So certainly that's kind of where I would like to take that conversation, but of course it requires resources, both time and money. So how much money, I don't know. I was going to have a chat with our previous, my associates were at the SLRD and find out, what did certain things cost, but haven't gotten there yet.
Well, it's a larger discussion, but what I would like to see is that community groups not only have their own link, they get to upload content themselves behind the login. They have access to their piece, and there's caveats around all of that and guidelines and so on. This needs to be a self-maintaining thing. We can't have it being maintained by staff because we don't have
You're
the-
gonna throw in the financial number to this? What, I mean, Mr. Web Designer, what's your number?
Well, my number is 0.
Well, you can't work for us.
Exactly. So,
Okay, so if you.
so I don't know.
Is it 5, is it 10, is it 15?
I don't. I'm loath to spend a penny because we spend all the money. The tool, as I keep telling anybody who will listen, is irrelevant. It's the content that counts. Now, yes, if we want to have the ability to buy a dog license on the website, that's going to be a different tool, and I doubt that the one we have today can do that. But right now, we're talking about brochureware. Everything else is an add-on.
All right, so we're past the library, because I think we've left that with Helen to bring it
Yeah.
forward more.
So, and I don't want to hijack the discussion for that.
And I don't want, okay, so, but I think we've covered that, but then the bigger piece is the web.
Can
And
we
either we're
find out?
dropping it, or we're allocating a budget for Peter to think about it.
But can we find out where we stand with the web? Because we were told that there is something ready, sort of, to go,
Yeah.
but it's not
With
the
a budget
case.
allocated for population.
Okay, that's
So
Could we? Yeah.
that's a very good point. I would just like to know
a
what
small action item on that one, Peter.
expose the thing to us on the VPN or give us a login or something so we can have a look. Maybe it's great.
Which, schlepping past the library to the Canada Day celebration, I looked at some of my old emails. Hard to believe that July the 1st will be around the corner shortly, and we have so many people that want to come to our 400-person and growing barbecue pig lunch.
Well, I think the word is out, right?
Word is
Free
out,
lunch in
and-
Lions Bay.
And with a new washroom and beach access.
Not so fast there, buddy.
Okay, well, I maybe
Oh, and a new
Maybe-
parking lot.
painting and new parking lot.
Yeah.
So, all right, so long story short, I'd also like to have that come forward as an action item, that we start thinking about who we want to come and let everybody get out there and do the invitations. Also, we have some in-camera work to do for that day too, versus pushing it through at the last minute.
Yes, thank you. Well, we can say what it is. That's just not.
Yeah.
That's the Citizen of the Year
Yeah.
awards and Citizen of Distinction. Yeah. Yes, thanks for the reminder. You're driving that? Or have-
I'll gladly play the wicked pen game when this would be the deciding end on that one. If we're all in, not you.
Oh, it's pointing to you, more or
Pointing
less.
to me, okay, I will steer that.
So,
Yeah.
So
Steer that to the extent that I will put something in the airwaves, and then we'll all have our 2 bits worth on it.
Why is Canada Day here? Because it's an event that's run by the events committee.
Yeah,
So
but
what do
we,
you need to do?
we invite the elected
Oh,
officials
okay.
and the police and the whole
They
variety.
do though.
Well, it's a little mixed,
Oh.
and they may not do it early enough, and.
Oh, I see.
It does need to be driven a little bit, and we need to select citizens
Yeah,
awards.
and not be rushed to it, so.
Okay, so you're taking this on.
Yes, so
That's-
that'll be, Sean, if we could action item that for me then.
I mean, essentially, it'd be liaison with the events
Yeah,
committee.
I'll be doing all that.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Gotta get
Anything else on
more-
that?
More out of that than we thought.
You good to go?
I'm good.
Do we have to receive any reports? There's nothing to receive. It was verbal.
Come on.
We'll take a motion to receive Councillor McLaughlin's report. And the second. Any further
Right.
discussion? All in favour? Opposed?
So which report are we?
A, B, C.
Councillor C1, A, B, and C.
Verbal report?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you in write some notes? Okay, Councillor Watterson, A, level of service policy.
Yes, actually, I think when I wrote this, perhaps the title should not be level of service policy. So when Peter made reference to it, I think it's different to what I had in mind. So for me, the reason I put this forward was due to the fact that I keep on being told that I need to get out of the weeds and that council should be setting policy. So I thought to myself, what's one of the most important policy that I think I should be setting? And that would be a policy that ensures that we are providing the best level of whether you call it resident service or customer service, I think that's what I'm trying to put forward as opposed to a level of service policy. I would like to know where we stand with regards to customer service. I'd like to know where we want to be and how to get there. And I don't know how we get this process in place. So I'm hoping, actually I was hoping to discuss this at the earlier meeting so that we can maybe put something together to say that we want, what Carl was saying earlier, the ethos of council, what I think it could be, which we would actually, hopefully, we're looking into tomorrow, is that we are resident driven, residents first. So in a roundabout way, I don't know if we need to have a policy in place to say that we aim to achieve the highest level of customer service possible within our means. I don't know how to do this. I don't know if.
Isn't there a problem with this, Helen? Because I think a good spirited and very well written piece on this, but the council's only got one employee, and the one employee is under would probably have a performance review, and his key, which would be hitting goals and service levels and stuff like that. And then his direct reports likely would have similar service reports, service level things, or attainment goals or something like that. So I mean, that's really the only benchmark and measuring piece. Is my thinking on this.
Yes, and I don't know if I don't know if we have a performance review policy. And I think aside from that, besides Peter reviewing performance, should not residents also have a say? Should we not, as residents?
Well, let's not get confused between the two issues. One is
I
staff
think
performance. That's very much Peter's purview.
I don't think it's
This is
staff
level of
performance.
service.
Yeah, I don't think it's.
But I would struggle to differentiate between the two.
Well, I think if you were to do this right, I think you would come up with something very easy to measure parameters that don't require, that are perhaps being collected anyway. For example, time to service a customer service request, TSR, whatever Public Works calls it. Number of rings the telephone rings. That's very, very simple ones, because otherwise the very act of measuring this stuff will overstretch us.
Carl or Mr. Mayor? So in looking at this, and I think we'll probably delve into this a little bit more, but really, council has the role of deciding what services it wants to offer, and what goals and objectives they have in terms of providing those services. It's staff's job to meet those goals and objectives, to deliver that service, but the two of us have to work together, because in order to provide the service, depending upon what that service level looks like, how many services do you want to provide and to what degree, it requires resources. So for a lot of the things that we do in the community, from an administrative or administration standpoint, employees doing that work, it's done by Public Works. A lot of the stuff is done by Public Works, and so there was a service level document that was presented to council last year, according to the Public Works manager, and that it basically outlined all the different services and service levels that are provided by that department, and how many resources are necessary to provide all the things that are that they're attempting to provide, and that added up to something like 7.7 full-time employees. It was a big spreadsheet, and that department only has 4.7 full-time employees. So there's a gap there in terms of sufficient resources allocated to provide the service level that is being requested. So that's just an example. with respect to Public Works and the services that they provide. So, yes, council has the purview of saying we would like service levels increased, or we would like additional services, but you need to look at what resources you're going to allocate in order to do it. So at the moment, we're already under-resourced to provide the services that we're attempting to provide, and that's just looking at that particular example.
Actually, I guess for me, it wasn't so much looking at Public Works perhaps as an example where we could increase the level of customer service without increasing resource would be hypothetically front of staff. So to ensure that when someone walks in, that they're greeted in a friendly manner and within a very short period of time. So that doesn't require extra resource, right?
Well, I can say that in the 6 weeks that I've been here, I have overheard, because my office is right there at the front, and they're always greeted.
Yeah, so that
in a
could be,
friendly
no, I'm
manner.
just saying that could be the,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that is a situation, but that would be something that we could be doing without increasing added pressure on resource.
But Helen, you're not trying to count sand, though.
No.
I'm using that
Yeah.
very simple, fair enough point. I mean, it's like, who's doing the monitoring, the data gathering and stuff like that? I mean, that's, I think in our small business with the, 11 folks on staff, we don't have a back room to gather data on personnel activities.
So then how do we address resident complaints then? How do we try to minimize resident complaints?
Well, we have a customer service request system for Public Works to respond to things, and there should be monitoring of that. Haven't really.
Sorry, what is this customer service request system? Did they fill something out? I don't know, I've never come across that.
I'm probably not the best person to
Okay.
speak to that
Okay.
without having been properly briefed by my Public Works manager. So maybe that's not something where I should go at the moment. But I think that there are means by which the administration can work towards improving quality of service, just like every business is always looking to improve their quality of service for their customers. Our customers are the residents of the community, and our customers are council. And so we should always be looking to improve the quality of the service that we provide. How we do that is my job, primarily, and there's a lot of things on the table. There's a lot of work to be done, but I hope to get there. There's we can talk more about it too at the workshop, but that's certainly an area that I'd like to see us improve. I don't think that we're necessarily doing a bad job with the resources that we have. I think we're probably doing quite a good job with the resources that we have.
How can we do a better job?
Yeah, I think that's what we have to work together on.
So that would be something we would be discussing tomorrow?
Sure.
Well, if it's somebody's priority, yeah. What I
Depends, yeah.
suggest as to this particular thing, what I would suggest you need to do is come up with parameters that you meet. As an example.
That's because I don't know, so I was hoping that a committee or a task force can come up with parameters.
Well, do you have time for another committee?
Once I finish the parking one.
So that's next year.
No, the parking one is gonna be delivered at the
Parking
end
is
of
in
this
3
month.
weeks.
You're going to be implementing it for 3 months?
I'm not on the implementation stage.
Yeah, that's operations. Here, do it.
Okay, let's discuss this after
I think you
tomorrow's
should take
strategic.
it to the other site.
Yeah, I mean, service levels are my whole thing, as
Yeah,
you
I
heard.
think well, I don't think we're talking the same talk. I'm not really
I
talking
think we are.
service.
You're talking about inside service levels rather than
Yeah,
outside.
I guess.
I think we
It's
should
the same
take it
thing.
offline and do it with the
Mhm.
facilitator.
It all comes with a cost, or the service level changes. I asked for a budget item on 3 of them. I looked them up. Were reductions in service.
Okay.
But okay, so let's leave it at that. Motion to receive the report. It's a recommendation, so we're going to table it.
Okay.
Motion to table.
Table that one. You
Second.
still got two more.
I got two more.
You got two more.
Oh, okay. Well, let's table this one and then, so table the recommendation.
So then I bring it back, is that what happens?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, what was my other one? Yeah, this one was also, number B was also really for discussion purposes. I was wondering if, so we've been going through budgets now, and I'm just wondering, do we know, how do I have confidence in knowing that we're financially stable for the next 10 or 20 years? Because it seems like when we're doing the budget, we're just doing this year's budget.
I think you should hold this one for another
Gotta hold this
month.
too?
No, just for a month. I think we'll be pretty clear where we stand now, and we'll be planning for the future.
I think it's a valid question.
We're just
It's a
looking
valid
now,
question.
very much just now, but we can't keep on increasing tax year after year after year for the next 20 years.
I think a discussion, sorry, Councillor.
There literally is not enough data on the table for financial minds to even guide you. And I think that's where you need, I would suggest this is an excellent question, and it's something that should be brought back, and if you won't, I will, because as we come close to, prior to going for our readings, it's got to be the next step. It's got to be point B. What is our future financial viability?
Yeah, I mean, Ron just reminded me that before we disbanded the Finance Committee, we gave them some homework, and one of them was, what are guidelines for acceptable levels of reserves for a municipality like ours?
I've got a one-inch package right behind me
Yeah.
from one of the members that said, lots of data. So just like Pamela did with the borrowing levels, and where you could actually kind of see. I think, but to this one, Helen, and I'm not doing staff's job here, Peter, but I mean, at this point, staff can't answer because the work's not in front of us for financial people to analyze. We can't tell you where we are today.
And should we be able to? Yes.
Yeah.
We should have a balance sheet at the press of a button.
But in 6 weeks, per what I said earlier today, I expect that we'll have the cash flows, the balance sheets, the reserves, the budget all lined up so that we're ready to go to the next step. That would be my.
The rest of it may be a more less analytical and more qualitative answer. Sustainability and viability. That's what we're all about. We have to decide what is it going to take to turn Lions Bay into a viable community.
Reduction in services, sale of assets, borrowing. A tax increase is only one of the clubs in the bag.
So when are we gonna have this talk? Did you say in a month's time?
Well, when the data comes,
Okay.
then you can't plan for the future when you don't know where you are today.
I think we will also have some of this discussion, certainly on my list of topics, is what are we going to do to ensure viability? And Ron mentioned all the levers we have available to us. We can't just keep raising taxes, so we have to do some other things.
Yeah.
And I think we're all heading in that direction. We understand we have other minimal assets. So, for example, I want the Ministry of Transport to cede us the gravel pit as a patrimony, so that we have land to give it to us. That's blowing their minds, by the way. But these are high-level strategic projects to address exactly that question. The answer to the question, I'll tell you in 100 years' time.
And that actually goes towards C grant opportunities. I know that you had discussed early on that perhaps we would hire a grant seeker, and then actually Peter just mentioned that he had worked with someone whose job was to
Comb the mill.
yeah, but then I've been told that we're not shovel ready for any grants, so it's sort of chicken and egg, egg and chicken.
Well, that is a failing of the way grants are given in government, is that it is a chicken and egg situation. You sort of have to guess what the next grant would be and be ready for it. Because they change their focus every year. So this year, for example, the federal Liberals don't really know what they want to fund. They just want to fund something. Next year it's green infrastructure. The next year it will be airports. The next year it will be who knows what. So yeah, it is a chicken and egg situation. The one thing I did meant to mention, and I wrote it down somewhere and I don't remember where it was, is on all of these budget items, Peter, the province gives two-thirds funding for infrastructure planning grants, up to $30,000.
Sorry, which budget items?
All of them. All of the plans, there's at least 3 engineering studies in here, all for about $15,000. They should all be the subject of an infrastructure planning grant
Yeah.
application,
I-
which is a rolling application, no fixed deadline.
There's, when I looked in terms of what's out there right now in terms of grants, there's very, very little.
I know, but I'm telling you,
there's
there
a
is
current,
IPGs.
yeah, I can't answer why that wasn't done previously, so,
And I also know that there was an IPG required in the budget last year, that we were going to put 10,000 towards, and 20,000 would come from the province towards the infrastructure master plan. It was just never applied for.
yeah, I think the time had expired, if I remember, because I did ask a question, so that's the answer I got, but
It's rolling
also,
applications.
also, I don't think it's rolling anymore.
I
I'd
talked to the
stand to be
director of
corrected,
the
but
office, Brian Bedford's his name. I met him at UBCM.
Hmm.
He says, send in the application whenever you've got one. That's not to say he's going to give it. Right now they're awarding about 2/3 of the application. It's a pretty good hit rate.
Part of this for me is being paper-based. Can we leave this as an action item for you? Just, let's call it grant opportunities.
Well,
Give us a holistic.
okay, if I can amend that, Ron, just to say specifically, where do we stand
Well,
on
there-
IPGs?
That one, there you go, thank you.
Oh, good, action item.
So Helen, would that be, and I wasn't stealing staff's piece, because I know that Pamela was sitting here since we chatted about this. On the, once we're past this budget period, what things look like, well, council has a lot of strategic decisions to make. And it's not tax.
It's good. I like to see us thinking strategically, and hopefully tomorrow's meeting will put us in
Well, we're all in
that
the
direction.
trenches, and the grenades are getting a lot better right now, so let's just get out the trench.
And what's the action item for that one?
Staff to report on IPG situation,
What does IPGs do?
infrastructure planning grant.
Thank
Do we have a list of grants that we actually received this year, or will be receiving this year?
I can tell you what they are, finger on one hand.
Really?
Gas tax, small community, that's it.
That's it.
it's all that's out there right now, basically.
I watched the provincial budget, we don't have a tourist opportunity out there.
And there's a big, in fact, I met with the Federal Minister of Infrastructure on whenever it was, last Friday. He said, I'll just read you my notes, Minister stated that federal government is not interested in funding infrastructure deficit of municipalities who kept rates artificially low at the cost of their infrastructure. Gulp. Okay, so we're talking about reversing that situation now, but that's us he's talking about. They are putting together an asset management tool that will become a federal repository for gathering data on the infrastructure deficit across the country. So you will go in there and fill in your infrastructure needs. And for the first time, and this is happening now, I mean the guys, his guy is writing notes as they're sitting there, they are going to have this tool that we will be filling in. Essentially we'll be uploading our work plan so that they can start actually getting a handle on the real infrastructure deficit, which has been underfunded in Canada forever, since Confederation. The other thing that he said that was quite interesting was the gas tax, which I hadn't necessarily been aware of, but Peter, you probably know this. Gas tax is supposed to be spent on capex only. You knew that, Ron? Or did you not? I didn't know it.
I think a little bit blurry there, because I mean, I think when you think anything to do with roads, that could be planning, pavement, stripes.
I'm sure we could always
You know.
reconstitute where
Yeah.
our grants went. $53,000 grant was. We've had it 2 years in a row now, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the GST would constitute general revenue to the federal government, and the way it gets to us is by interprovincial transfers, and for years the provinces have insisted
luck.
on less and less ties to that money, so I think that that might be overstating the case.
yeah, I thought so too. But anyway, be that all as it may, this was the Minister for Infrastructure. That Pam Goldsmith Jones is being asked by his ministry. Give us projects. And he was looking for money, things to spend money on. Okay, he wants to spend 900 million on the Lionsgate treatment plant, this way,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, there's money coming. Are you good on your pieces there, Helen?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. So motion to receive the final two verbals. Thanks. Second. All in favour? Opposed? That carries. D, committees. Greg?
I say a few things on the IC meeting last night. The major focus of the meeting last night was on the infrastructure master plan that's in process still. AECOM's to complete water modeling that wasn't quite the way our public works manager had expected it. But we got a list of 46 projects, plus one. There was one missing from the list. And there's a big discussion about the completeness of the recommendation and the discussion of intakes, locations, where they are, and all that sort of things. But essentially the IMP needs to get where it needs to be, if I can quote our works manager. And she and Peter are going to be working, or the CAO are going to keep working with AECOM to achieve the above. But the recommendations to council are to accept the recommendations of the projects for consideration and accept the 2016 to 25, no, 25, did I put that? Yeah, project plan for council's consideration for 16. In other words, there are projects, if we're going to get any, some of them are rather large, and we're going to need some grant funding to complete them. But what we can do now, for example, is make sure the ones that we are having in our sites are properly surveyed, the groundwork's done, designed to a shovel-ready condition, so that when we do get some grant funding, we can action that. One in particular was the Ocean View panoramic piece. There are serious problems there. The Works Department has managed to get the water flowing and everything, but it's not a good situation. So as we discussed in the CSC this afternoon, I guess that recommendation's coming up a bit later, but we're looking at a way to mitigate that problem. So I won't steal anyone's thunder around the table, and we'll deal with that when we get to it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It was a fairly substantial meeting. I guess we got some meat done. What were some of the other things we talked about?
Oh, yeah, we're talking about leak testing. The Works Department has an annual program. They've got a visual on the 24-hour usage, so we can see the spikes and everything. When they see a spike, they know there's an increase in leakage, so they can act on that. They prefer to do it right after winter, then again mid-spring and fall. So far, the feeling is that there are no significant leaks on the village side. There are still 70 shutoffs in the village for domestic service that they don't know where they are. Homeowners can't identify them, and the village staff are having difficulties locating them as well. But when they can get them, they'll get onto them. There seems to be some leakage, but when you look at our water consumption rates and everything, the leakage has gone dramatically down from even last year or the year prior. The biannual check for flushing, it's been pushed off a little bit to budget, and they have some. We've had some intake issues like access to Harvey and whatnot with the slide there. We've lost a member of our IC committee, Greg Garland, who's done outstanding work for us, particularly being the major mover on the outdoor water use bylaw. We've got a prospective new member coming on, of Jim Moutry. We'll see how he works and if he's interested. But as for now, Tony Greville will be working with Nikki to work on some demand factor determinations, so we can check the water usage and graph it as we did last year.
Just to recall, that is the determinant for which water conservation level we're on. So when we go below 150% supply demand, we go to level 1. When we go below 125% supply demand, we go to level 2, and below 105%, we go to level 3. that number has to be generated on a daily/weekly basis, and so Tony is going to do it, and Greg did it last year. It requires a little bit of calculation and stuff.
Yeah, just so long as we have some accurate figures and nobody feels like we're throwing darts at a board to come
Yeah.
up with when we switch, I think that'll be.
Well, we have the additional advantage this year that we didn't have last year, where it had to be done fairly manually, is that because of upgrades to the SCADA system, the control system that council approved, for the first time in a decade, the control system is actually logging the data.
Mhm.
You don't have to sit there and write it down every 10 minutes.
Oh, we used to have the problem as well, that they would look at one intake, and to look at the other one, they'd switch from one to the other and lose all the data.
You lose the
in
data,
original.
yeah, completely.
So now we're a lot better than that, so we're in much better condition.
And it didn't take much. A new computer and an update license. I think it was $7,500. So, yeah, that's good, thank you. Any other committees?
No, but I have a question for Fred.
Yes.
So you mentioned 46 projects were presented.
Mhm.
So out of those 46, Nikki took out the top X amount and put it onto our current budget. Is that how we're approaching it?
Oh, what she has done is she's taken the ones for right now for the 2016 budget, and some of them have descendants and everything that we can start with this one, but they have other projects that will be coming in as a result of this. For example, the Ocean View Panorama, it'll have this year's work, and then there'll be next year's work as well, hopefully. The items on the recommendations from the INP are prioritized with most needed. Sorry, I forgot the term. I lost it. Highest priority, high priority, and moderate. And then they're further categorized as far as urgency as to which year to put them in, and they've got 5 years out. So we've got a bit of a chart.
So the ones that are currently on our budget is the highest priority for this year.
Yes.
Yes, all the ones that could be done with some confidence that they weren't going to mess up something down the road or lose major economies of scale. Although that's not strictly true. So, you know, fixing the culvert on Bayview, sorry, wrong direction, no, there around the corner, you know, that might be a better project to do, a $2 million project to recamber the road and fix the water pipe underneath all at the same time. That's the whole point of a master plan, right? So that is on the budget. It hasn't been presented to us because it's a $240,000 project. But the engineering plan is, and this is why I keep going on about these IPGs. You know, these things are all $15,000. That's what a shovel-ready plan costs. Amazingly enough, that's what the IPG is, and they will give us as many as they think we deserve. So we have to make good cases, and I think we can really start making good cases for that. There's one more grant that I forgot that we didn't mention, Peter, and that is the New Build in Canada. There's a new intake. They're looking for projects. We're not ready for any. We don't have any shovel-ready plans, and I don't think we can get any done in time. I mean, the deadline, the intake is, if it's not closed, it's, you know, it's a matter of weeks. That was mentioned as well. And to remind you, remember we didn't know a year ago when the next intake would be. Well, lo and behold, it was a year later.
Mm-hmm.
Guess why? Because, you know, everybody's trying very hard to position themselves for the forthcoming general election.
So Carl, the letter you wrote to Pam's office was really just putting a mark on the wall.
Yeah, yeah, that's just putting, yeah, exactly, putting our ballot in the ballot box. No, that's buying our lottery ticket.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, the deadline was today, and who knows what will come out of that? Almost certainly nothing. But if we didn't put a name in, you know, when the time for the real application comes, I don't know how these people actually. It's all done by gosh and by golly, as we find, you know, when we did the New Build in Canada, it was, we asked the nicest, therefore we were given.
Well, often it seems to me that they hold off and hold off and hold off so that they have fewer applications to look at, because whatever plan they've got going, because the amount of lead time you're given, there's no way you've got enough time to get shovel ready for
It's
it.
an almost impossible situation. Now, this guy, the federal minister, Sohi, said that they were going to try and change that, to make it a more realistic process that recognized the reality of budget planning, which takes place in January and February, not in October when they want to do their intakes,
Right.
their application intakes. I'll believe it when I see it. But at least they're acknowledging it. Now, the Sohi guy, just by the way, was a councillor in Edmonton and bus driver before that. So he's a real guy. He fully understands the challenges. Okay, anything else on committees? Thanks, Fred. Motion to receive a report from the chair of the IC. I don't think you can move or second that, Fred. Thank you. And a second. All in favour, opposed, carried. Report received, got it. Beauty. The emergency services reports. I believe we've seen the January numbers already, 19 and 21. But look at them if you want. Just for your information, I've started. I put a template together with Simon, who analyzes this information, to see if we can start detecting trends. I can tell you the short answer right now is about 15% of our hours are spent in village, and 85% of our hours are spent on highway calls. In very rough terms, because we have to assign a standard amount of hours to a given call. So sometimes, an MVA will be 30 minutes. Sometimes it'll be 8 hours with 2 engines. So, it's a rough standard. But I don't think anybody's surprised to hear that. So there you go.
Oh, do you not have access to the end of call timing?
So he's asking, sorry, if we have that. If we can get that, that'll change. That'll make it completely explicit.
Well, they do have the information.
They do, but we need to get the report. Yeah. That's exactly what we talked about today. Okay, so everybody good on those reports?
I'd like to say thank you for the fire department for putting an explanation of the use of comment.
Yeah.
Ask and you'll receive. Okay, motion to receive the emergency services reports. And a second. All in favour, opposed, carried. So that's 8E 1 and 2 received, Shauna. Resolution, CA Forum. Peter, you want to talk to this one?
Just a simple request for coverage of the expenses to attend.
So this is simply because that's part of the CAO's employment agreement, that attendance at external, what do you call these things? Continuing education and conferences are required to be approved by council, not by the mayor, which is what the EA used to say. So council has to approve it or not approve it. So you have the recommendation. Can I have a motion and a second? Discussion? Ready for the question? All in favour? Opposed? That carries. Okay, the next two are mine. The first one is following page 22, I believe. So I know that I just sent this, and I don't suppose you've had much time to absorb it, but I think you will know what it's about. Last year we had to authorize additional budget because it's overtime, and they have to pay double standby to some fire department guys to help, because there's a bit of running around at the dead of night with laser levels and valve closers and all kinds of things. I believe that this is one of the most useful pieces of information that Public Works has generated for us. You see the 3 that we've done. The first one was in 2005. It was done by AECOM and revealed for the first time an actual number of 63% leakage rate. It's the one that I think it's that one there, Fred. No, the one that you're looking at. Or it might be the one behind that. It's the single page one, not the stapled one. Yeah, that one.
This is staple as well.
90.
Oh, you got 2 of the same then.
We skipped 90.
Hmm?
We skipped 90.
Oh, sorry.
Here,
That's Nikki's.
I saw this electronic one.
Ocean View Road of Panorama.
Oh, there we go.
Right,
I don't have it.
it's on table. 9B is on table from Nikki.
Oh, sorry, I misread my own handwriting.
Yeah, and then yours was C and D.
Okay. Let's just defer discussion on C. Let's go to B. Do we have it?
For 90, I think Peter handed them out at the beginning.
9B, yeah, but mayor's on table 1.
9B is Ocean and Panorama.
Is it this one?
That's 9B.
Okay.
That's 9B.
I don't have one yet. Okay, we discussed that at CSC. We all know what it's about. This was where we took options 1 and 3. They've been renumbered to 1 and 2 now. Is that simply to get them sequential? 2 and 3, I believe, actually were the options we had.
1, 2, and 3.
So this was spending the $15,000. Let's hope we can get an infrastructure planning grant for it, and to simply patch the hole for now, pending getting 30 cents on the dollar money soon or next year to spend the necessary $140,000. Okay, so we've discussed it. Thanks for preparing the recommendation, Peter. All in, can I have a motion? Thanks. And a second? Further discussion? All in favour? Opposed? Carried? Good. Beautiful. Okay, C. Now I can talk. This is the mayor's recommendation for the leak down test. Do we need any further discussion on this? I don't know what the budget is. It's not much. It's some overtime. Nikki didn't have it in her work plan.
Any ballpark?
No. No.
So yeah, it's she needs, I think, all her crew plus a couple fire guys. They do it for 6 hours in the middle of the night. So basically, the works crew is useless for the day before and the day after. Not useless, sorry, wrong word. They're compromised in terms of their availability and productivity because they'll have to do the at night thing.
So that's
And
$2,500.
there's, so we didn't talk dollar values, but those things were mentioned at the meeting last night at the IC committee.
I mean, just go 30 times 7 times 5 times whatever the firemen and it's
Yeah.
$2,500.
Yeah, it is. In extra outlay, the information is worth that plus more. What we really need to understand is what is the impact of our leak fixing. This is the only way to tell. Now, there is a suggestion that the improved SCADA control system will give us a look, potentially. And so this will actually, for the first time, give us the ability to compare the SCADA number, leak rate test, to the actual field leak rate test. And it may be that in future we can dispense with the field test. It has to be done January, February. It has to be done overnight. Did the IC recommend that this come forward, or did I just said that I would write a recommendation? Is that how it worked?
I remember the latter. I don't think there was any objections, as I could recall, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody in the IC will say, of course we need this.
So it needs to be resolved ASAP, right? If we need to do a Jan Feb.
Yeah, that's why I've got it now.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, because Nikki needs to plan it.
Put it forward.
Okay, I'll move it. Can I have a second? And further discussion? All in favour? Opposed? It carries. Thank you. Thank you for that. This is a much smaller ask, and I gave you some background because I don't know how much you know about this. As you know, I've been pointing at the non-existent map on this wall for too long. Nikki did start the process going with, unfortunately, AECOM. They had produced about a map that was maybe a quarter of the way there, and then AECOM has gone, it probably would not be prudent to be working with AECOM on a second project, whether it's a favour or paid. So I spoke to Nikki and said, drop that one, I will take a look, and I'll self-fund it if necessary. So I've identified several vendors. This is one of them. This is what I've sent them. This is what they've responded. You can see that he sent me this map after about 5 minutes of work. He put the phone down and the email arrived 5 minutes late. It's truly amazing what people know what they're doing. You see what I want to do. It's going to be a political map of Lions Bay. It's going to be about 1 meter high by 3.5 meters long. It's going to be big. It's going to identify parcels by number and PID. It's going to do all kinds of good stuff. I gave the list. So what I'm asking for is not only the money, the resolution to be allowed to spend the money, it's the authorization for staff to send the proprietary data outside to the mapping vendor.
With respect to the cost, looking through the materials, I think that my concern would be that you multiply the hourly rate by estimated number of hours depending upon what factors are requested to be included in the map, and I came up with between $1,200 and $2,400 plus the cost of the printing, which was one was you know, I don't know, there's another $150. Plus, you're probably gonna wanna put a frame on this, so it's gonna be custom framing. So, custom framing is pretty expensive, actually. Probably a few more $100. So, I would estimate that the $900 figure is quite low. I would think that for all the things you're looking for here, some of which may not be compatible with each other, I think that if you ask for a relief map, you may not be able to have, you know, like an earth view, you may not be able to put in the zones.
He said that. So I mean,
like
this
yeah.
this is very
So-
basic. Yeah, you're right.
So, my concern though would be that it would be at least double this, and possibly triple it.
I'm
Somewhere-
confident for that money we can get a good enough map. I'd
So-
like to spend more, but I don't think that would be a good idea.
So something that the chief finance officer noted was that something like this, depending on how much it ends up costing, could really come under your own operational budget. We'll find an operational budget for it as opposed to calling it, you know, another supplementary capital item.
Oh, I was always intending it would come out of the budget. Yeah. Yeah,
So-
no, I'm not suggesting adding this as supplementary.
Okay.
This would come out of council's whatever it is budget.
Right.
I just want to go to
Actually, she said the
UBCM.
same thing about Nikki's testing, should come out of operational
Should do.
anyway,
Yeah.
so.
I just want to earmark the money. So yeah, certainly I agree. When I did the numbers, that's the number I came up with too. But he didn't know what data we had, and I know what data we have, which includes street numbers, infrastructure, all that stuff.
But I think adding all those things in, I got the impression that that was extra time. Those are the drivers, those are the cost drivers that were gonna pump it up.
No, what the real driver was going out and finding data, and he didn't know that the main problem was putting street numbers on the parcels. So you see, I mean, you know, the parcel data, it's all public, almost all. The one thing that's not public is the street number. Well, lo and behold, we have that in our GIS. So I'm pretty confident we can give a good enough map for 900. What I really more need is the authorization for staff to send the data out so that this guy can look at it. And if he comes back and says, well, sorry, what you actually want is going to be 1800, well, then we'll say, well, don't give us what we can get for 900. Because I'm conscious that, you know, a map's just a map after all.
Well, I think it's probably somewhere in between that you wanna get the things that are important to have on it, as opposed to coming up with the cheapest map that might not serve its best purpose.
Well, I want to make this palatable, obviously,
Yeah,
but
yeah. And from a staff perspective, in terms of releasing the information, there's no issue with that for the, you know, we
Okay,
just
well,
limit
so-
it for the purpose that it's intended, so.
well, how about 1250 then? What does the council think? I mean, do you think this is worth anything?
Well, I think you have a point. When we have nothing on the wall and somebody starts making a reference to phase 6, phase 8, or whatever tank, I don't remember where they all are either, and it'd be kind of handy to see. And
We used to have a map. I keep pointing to it still.
yeah,
It's not there anymore.
but there's got to be some things like this one here. They've made the same mistake that an engineer did on the one that was on the wall.
I know. I really pointed that out to him. I
Yeah.
said that's spurious.
Yeah, it's.
We don't have a water lease.
Right. Yeah.
No. So and that is actually, this is for the first time we'll be able to correct a lot of that stuff. You know, we also show a lot of these spurious parcels in the highway reservation. Well, that's not correct. And he said the new Tantalus database, whatever the heck that is, it's some surveyor thing. The new one that just came out, I don't know if you read his backup material, that was produced in June and July last year, for the first time removes all that spurious parcel data out of the highway.
Oh, really? Yeah, because it looks nice here. I mean,
Yeah.
nice and clean.
Peter's also correct that there's room within the council budget if this goes triple, that's fine.
No, I want to.
Well, I mean, you're the one that's on the phone, so, I mean,
I think we can do something pretty nice for 1250. Signed, sealed, delivered, laminated, ready to go. Okay, it won't be in a full-on frame, that's true. It will probably be mounted on Coroplast, but it will be fine. It'll be a working map that we can draw on, point to. This is big.
okay.
You're gonna
15.
draw on it, I hope, after spending a couple of grand.
No, it's going to laminate. You can use dry erase.
$1,500.
1500 and release the data. Thank you.
And Peter's confirmation that you can go off the reservation here.
Well, yeah, but I'm hearing that I think I can do that with council authorization, right?
Well, that's one double making.
Okay, so can I have a motion? I'll move it. Can I have a second? Thanks. All in favour? Opposed? It carries. Thank you very much. I think I think you'll be pleased. So you got it? Cheers.
1,500, correct?
1,500 plus release of data. Okay, beautiful. Let's move on to bylaws. Adoption of the water parcel tax bylaw number 130, which incorporates the repeal of bylaw number 498, page 23. We all know what this is about. This is final adoption. No changes are possible now anyway. This is the formality. So can I have a motion and a second? Further discussion?
Is it really called water parcel tax bylaw? Because I thought we were removing it from being a
Oh,
parcel
that's
tax.
a very good question.
That's just,
supposed to be a parcel tax.
What's the name of the bylaw? It's,
but we don't have a parcel tax for water anymore.
We got rid of it.
So is that a problem?
This is the repeal.
This is
This is the
Oh,
this is
Sorry.
yeah. You almost
the
had me
bylaw
there.
to repeal it.
Yeah.
Saying goodbye to
Good catch though, Fred. You're absolutely right. But this is the repeal bylaw of that of the old one.
But for a second there, you were telling me we didn't have any such bylaw.
You know, we gotta work you through dinner to sharpen you up here.
yeah, right.
That was scary. Look at all the other ones we got rid of. So can I have a motion? Had it and a second, please. Thanks. Further discussion? Not. All in favour? Opposed? Carries. So we are now on to the utility user rate amendment bylaws number 499, 500 and 501. The adoption, final step, no changes available. We've seen these. The numbers are in them. Let me just make absolutely sure I didn't have a question on one of them.
We talked about the CapEx earlier today for these categories.
There was one. Peter, on page 33 of the package, I believe that word discount should be prompt payment discount.
Where are you looking?
Yeah, that word discount there. You don't automatically get a discount. It certainly says prompt payment in the other ones.
Yeah.
In the sewer one.
Yeah, they're all supposed to be prompt payment discount.
But you can do that administratively. That doesn't need any change, surely.
Surely.
Don't call me Shirley.
Stole my thunder. Yeah, I think we're okay because I think that this is
think the
an
underlying-
amendment bylaw. The actual bylaw itself, I believe, refers to prompt payment in the wording of the bylaw.
I would like to see that changed, though, just so there's absolutely no equivocation about you get a discount. And then the other one is on this extra garbage containers, $4 each can. We don't give cans away for $4. We give stickers, right, or tags.
So where are you now?
Part 4 under waste and recycling. That's more semantics, and I'm not too worried about it because there's no real financial implication one way or the
We
other.
have no cans to sell.
It's not the stickers, the stickers are free.
What is it?
I think, does it mean that you're allowed a certain amount, and if you have over that?
Yeah.
You're supposed to
have
buy
pay?
something.
Bags.
Oh, it's a bag.
I think.
Oh, is it a bag?
I don't think so.
Whatever.
No, it's a sticker you put on your garbage.
It is a sticker, I thought, yeah.
And it goes on your garbage can if you have more than 2 garbage cans.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's extra garbage containers above the 2 that you're allowed.
Yeah,
Then it's $4 each can, over and above.
but you need to buy a sticker. Because the man on the garbage truck is not going to come and knock on your door and say, hey, you owe me $4. He's never done that to me anyway. Oh, did I say that?
I'm sure it's in the boilerplate.
That's good. That's fine.
Yeah, we could table this for the moment, and I can double check before you adopt,
No.
if you like.
No, let's just do it.
Won't let you
I
do
don't
that.
think we have time.
No.
It'll make Pam worried.
I can live with the pain.
Okay.
So-
Let's be amended.
My other question is, what is the point of this page 37 on here? This ancient water user, sewer user rate bylaw. Is this being repealed, or is this what?
It's 3A schedule, it's being deleted.
I think the reason it was there the first time around was to show you, because of the fact that it was such an old bylaw, we didn't have it in words, we couldn't just sort of redline it and show you what's being amended within the document itself. So it was to show you, in relation to the words that were being amended, you could look at the old bylaw and see, okay, what is it now going to say? That's why it's there.
Okay, so, and then we do that in section 2, A, B, and C, where we strike the words 14th of July and substitute the word 31st of March. I mean, these things can all be scanned and turned, but I guess this is not the executed version. So, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, that's why it's there.
So this is what will be changed, but we can't actually show it because not a
Well, this is what you normally pass as a bylaw anyways. What should come back after this, my next task would be to create a consolidated sewer user rates bylaw. Number
which incorporates
122.
incorporates this one.
Incorporates the amendment that you're passing. So just to let you know, that's never been done here on any of your bylaws. You've got a gazillion consolidations that need to be done, and so that's in my work plan.
And that's a great start.
There we go.
Yeah.
Got to start somewhere.
Okay, so I'll take a motion to adopt the sewer user rates bylaw number 122 1984 amendment bylaw 501. Thanks, and a second. And further discussion. Everybody good? This is it. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
So did we do all three individually? Did, didn't we?
No, it was almost one.
Oh,
There's one recommendation.
sorry.
You good with that? Okay. Correspondence. Ron, will you do the honors?
Thank you. Blessedly short. The first one, I think G1, you now know more about herring and sound than you ever
Yeah.
wanted to know. No response. G2, the downloading of DNA.
Wait, what page are you on?
Well, I'm working.
So hang on.
Let me catch up.
Did you want about the spawning or the life of?
Oh yeah, there were two. Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so the downloading of DNA analysis costs. This is a letter sent by the District of Abbotsford City Mayor, which played off the District of Kent Mayor, and there's no response here. It's what a surprise, the downloading of DNA analysis.
So I'll just tell you what this is about. There was a big hoo-ha at the last Lower Mainland RCMP thing. This time they didn't pass around the assault rifle demonstration. They had the DNA guy there with some test tubes. If you're a city of a certain size, you will be paying a significant amount more for DNA testing, like tens of thousands. We, however, fall under the rural policing thing where our costs are covered regardless. I asked, Clayton Pecknold, the minister, was sitting next to me, and I probably shouldn't have been quite so rude. I said, tell me, are our fees going up or not? He couldn't tell me. So they may or may not, so the police fee that we pay, $112,000 last year, will probably go up. We have not yet had our levies from police, school. We don't have hospital yet, have we? Metro. Yeah, I don't think so.
And that cherry pending increased news. Thank you.
Well, if I can just throw something, I think although this doesn't hit us directly because we are under 5,000 in population, the principle kind of gets me though. I see a repeated downloading of financial responsibilities from provincial governments to communities, and the communities are at least able to afford it. So I think I agree with the district.
Yeah, no, this was a big, nobody was pleased. And this is actually federal downloading.
Yeah.
The lab's in Ottawa.
Yeah, sorry, you're right, my mistake. But I don't know, I don't know if there is an option for us to do anything about it, other than just get upset about it.
There's absolutely nothing. They have that power. You can just protest.
Okay, moving on. The hazardous and unsightly water tank. Which one, you ask? Okay. This would be the one just behind us here. The resident who looks at that, long story short, they cite work-safe issues, leftover sheeting that's hazardous, unsafe practices. The resident alleged that the work is unfinished and that, well, that may be alleged, but it is unsightly. I'm sure all of us concur to that. However, I believe this is a staff issue to respond and to recommend in the budget if there's something forthcoming that's missing. And my recommendation, if we were doing a pretty up, this might be an Arts Council phone call.
Yeah, well, you're right. I certainly don't think it's a very sightly thing, especially in the middle of the village. Even the village of 40 years ago found the money to screen it,
Clad it,
to clad it. It came as a surprise to me when I saw what the work was. I thought we had agreed to $14,000 to remove the roof, not the whole thing. But okay, you've got to be very careful what you approve. So that's why in the future I want to be really, really sure what it is that we're approving. So this was not the roof only, this was everything. And I'm sure there's a good reason for it. I'm sure it was rotten through and through.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. But, then 14,000 is not enough because clearly didn't include repairing it or replacing it. But I like the idea of painting it. I mean, there's municipal ethos, that's the current green that we see, but there are better colours to paint municipal infrastructure.
Arts Council's coming to see us next.
Yeah. So that may very well, it may even be, a stylized Lions Bay. It might even be a vinyl wrap, so the thing looks like a forest. There's lots of ways to do this. Or it may be replacing the structure that was
The
removed.
problem with the structure, the way it looks right now, it's not that it's unsightly, but it might be if one of our local artists decides to go out there and paint stuff all over it, like we did down below the bus
Yeah,
stop.
that's exactly right.
You know,
So it may very well be a good solution to get the Arts Council involved to actually do it properly. Now, that's not going to be cheap.
Maybe they'd like to paint it as if it's a big swimming pool with people enjoying the sun.
A train with people waving. Yeah, no, I think let's leave it to the Arts Council.
yeah, that's not a bad thought.
Is this water tank currently being used?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sure.
It's storing water. So we removed the roof.
The rotten roof.
Rock.
It was a cover. It wasn't this roof of the tank. It
Oh,
was
it's all
a
facade.
shelter over it.
Facade above and around, and now it's just exposed.
Although, if I'm to be absolutely fair, the roof was a mansard roof. And as you know, mansard roofs go down almost vertically. So what was removed was actually the roof, but that was actually the whole structure, if I'm to be fair. Now, I just point out, I'm glad you raised that, because this is one of the issues around the infrastructure master plan. What we wanted to know out of the infrastructure master plan is this tank still needed? It was put in, back in the day, when Lions Bay,
It's tiny.
it doesn't really serve. Well, and here's the other problem. Given the current consumption, we actually have too much storage right now. We are storing water for longer than the recommended 36 hours, after which the chlorine off gases, and in theory is supposed to re-inject downstream. So we actually store too much water right now because of this vastly reduced consumption that we have.
Well, there's other issues than just the volume of storage, but this amount of storage, where the storage is located, how much head pressure is provided to the systems down below that it's servicing. So for example, that tank doesn't have a lot of head pressure on it compared to water that's coming down from up top.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some advantages to having that lower pressure, closer to.
Well, that's right. Otherwise, we have to put a fancy PRV in
Otherwise,
there.
we have a real leakage problem.
Yeah. So this is when Nikki speaks about the model that they produced was inadequate. This is what we're talking about. They didn't model the system properly, which strikes me as a bit strange because the 2005 study modeled the system just fine and nothing's been changed. Not a thing.
So what's the action? You're going to speak to Udo about it?
Hand it back to staff and town Arts Council.
Yeah, so can you respond to this, Peter? Although it came, why did you give me a separate printout in my tray? Is it because it was addressed to Mayor?
I didn't.
That would have been reception.
Okay, well, it's fair enough because it was addressed to the Mayor. Well, since it was addressed to the Mayor, I'll respond to them. They've given their email address. That should be privatized, by the way. Respond on page 118. And I'll just say that we're aware of the problem, we don't like it either, and we're going to do something about it. Don't hold your breath. Good?
In your own fine style.
I will say it nicer than that. Okay, so I think that's it for correspondence. Excuse me. Motion to receive correspondence? and a second. All in favour, opposed, carried. New business. Is that in the right place? I guess it is. Is that right? Do we normally have new business then?
Yeah,
We do?
The end.
Okay.
yep, there's
All right.
nothing for it.
Public questions and comments. Lisa, you've been sitting there so patiently, I can hardly believe it.
Oh, I'm quite entertained, actually. I got 2 minutes, I believe, so I'm gonna rattle off some questions and go really fast. So, question number 1 is, Robin DeLazzle, did you really pay for him to come out for almost $1,000 to be interviewed? Question number 2, what did you really finally decide to do with the hazard across the street from us? Because I'm getting tired of moving the ballard so children and dog walkers don't fall in. Also, as per communication from staff, and to Helen's point, when you phone the office to ask them questions, they're really quite rude. I have delivered countless packages and all my past paperwork to this office because they couldn't find it, only to be told now if I would like to retrieve it so I can look something up, I need to fill an information request form, when it was my documents to begin with that I gave to the girls. So, and then also the water tower to communication. When things go on in the village, the residents around the area should actually be notified. When those ballards went up, we should have had a knock at our door to say, hey, you could be blocked in your driveway because of the positioning of these ballards, which we were. And we could not get out of our driveway and we had to move them. You would think someone would have the decency to come down to your house and tell you there's a problem at the top of your driveway. But no, that didn't happen. The same thing with the water tower. When it gets taken down and you're forced to look at an eyesore, those residents impacted should be told what's going on. We're not looking at your minutes. We're not looking anywhere else. The seagull's gone. The lack of communication out of here is atrocious. I would love to sit with you to get some better communication out of this village and help get the office staff to stop being so rude to residents when they phone in. We're taxpayers here and we shouldn't have to put up with the belittling and the, oh, well, I don't know. Like, come on, really? They've been here a while. I think they could figure it out. So I would like not to have to fill out an information request to find out what's going on. So how am I? Is that it?
You've got 4 questions. The $1,000, what's happening in front of you, which we passed tonight. Staff,
Water tower.
and the water tower, and let's call it the
And why
issues
did
in
the
front
work shard take it
notification.
down? What is the work shard really doing? Hans Brandvold's contracted. We're paying a subcontractor when we're paying all these tax dollars for the work shard. We're paying these tax dollars to the work shard.
Well, that's an operational decision, and council has no purview on that one. That was a decision made by the administration for the best use of the resource, and I have to assume that was done correctly.
Seems like a bit of a waste of resources when we're looking at budgets. This paperwork says you're at $1 million. But
Well, I can assure you they weren't sitting around waiting for that job to finish. They were doing something else. I agree on the communication part very much. Your words echo mine quite closely.
And my document isn't in here. My email was correspondence to all council. And my document for my monthly follow-up is not in this package. But,
Did you copy that to staff as well?
yeah,
Yeah, I thought so.
yeah.
Okay.
It went to the whole enchilada because it seems to get backburned.
Yeah. Well, you heard what's happening with that thing now, right? So
Not really. I don't understand what your 1, 2, and 3 were, or your 4.
Okay, so what's happening there is it's going to be patched sooner rather than later. I don't know what the timing is out of council's hands. That's operational. We had thought that we maybe would use tax dollars to do the job properly. We realized that we don't want to use tax dollars for that. We're going to use grant fund dollars for that. What we are going to do is the study this year so that we know what we're going to do next year.
So potentially you guys could have been letting it sit there until your study was completed if Nikki hadn't brought forward this report.
Nikki
No,
asked
council
for-
would never have let that happen.
No, Nikki
Because
asked,
we understood from Nikki, nothing was happening until the budget was done. We keep seeing huge liability up there. Having sat on council before, it's a liability waiting to happen, and
Yeah,
I'm
no, we
surprised
know.
nothing's happened yet. So I got told by this office that it was going to happen after the budget. So we had Nikki come in because it's our monthly check-in. It's only been since November 9th. What's going on? And Nikki finally gets, whomever this new fellow is, to come out and have a look as well, and it's a bit of a problem. So, am I assuming she's going to be sooner rather than later, or
You can
we're
assume
gonna-
that because this is now in the operational budget. This is not even this is not a new budget. She's going to be doing the repair, which is $7,000 repair, out of the operating budget.
And when
That she has.
And when she told you that it was in budget's hands, that was before it ever came to budget, because we saw the issue, thought it was gonna get fixed as everybody would. And then I think the first I saw it was when it was 15 and 140.
Yeah. Well, if you've looked at it today after that 55 millimeters of rain yesterday, it's even worse. So, I mean, the erosion factor, the deck next door is sunk, our stairs are sinking, our driveway, you can't get out of it anymore without scraping the vehicle on the top of the driveway. Like, that road is moving, and it's not moving slowly anymore. So something's got to happen before something catastrophic happens.
We know. So what we're going to be doing about that, and we have approved the budget for that, I think, is to put millimeter accuracy survey markers all the way up Ocean View to see where it's going. Which is not done next to a terrestrial datum. It's not relative to a pin. It's relative to space.
So
So
we
we
have
can tell
no
if it's-
timeline on when this is going to get patched, so we can use the road and get out of the driveway properly.
Not from
We
us.
even approached Nikki to see if we could get the sight lines done with the trees getting moved, so at least you could see coming out of Panorama.
Well, you know very well that we're not operational. We set policy, and we set the policy.
Can I ask, I understood that there was perhaps a survey question in terms of
The
where
hedge is
things are
on
located.
municipal property.
Pardon me?
The hedge is on municipal property,
And
and
is
the
there,
neighbor is fine with it getting taken down to a sight line. And we usually trim it because we can't see.
because that
so-
hedge is about, I don't know,
It's
10,
now
12
10
feet
feet
high.
high. It used to be maintained by the works yard. It
Hmm.
used to be back in the days of Blair.
To what height?
To a 4-foot height. You can see the top mark on one of the other trees that's in there. And it used to be kept before we purchased the property. Well, it was probably the same time. Before the Manners took over the property, it was about a 4 feet height.
So
That
but
whole corner was maintained out, including number 10. It was all maintained.
But if you're coming out of your driveway, which is on an angle
Yeah.
towards the down slope,
Yeah.
And you've got a 4-foot hedge, you're not going to be able to see
you
what's
can
coming
see
up the hill.
when that hedge was maintained, when you come to the precipice of the driveway,
Mhm.
you can see down the road to see what's coming up the road. As it stands currently, it's like a brick wall. So
Mm.
when you come to the precipice, the brick wall and the no parking sign are here, and then you've got to inch forward further into the road allowance.
Mm.
The hedge, in the past, you could inch to the top, look down the road, see stuff coming. Panorama Road could stop at the stop sign. They had clearance from that hedge and the lower hedge, and you could see, oh, okay, nothing's coming up the hill at the Jackrabbit racers that they go up, right?
And your neighbor's name?
David,
the hedge?
they're new neighbors. They're in the email threads.
Oh, okay.
So,
I'll have to
yeah.
contact them perhaps. And
And I did send Nikki a map, so she's got all the measurements, because I told her it should all be in GIS, because Blair had put it in GIS when Blair was in here, and we gave him the SCADA system. So,
okay, I made note of those things.
Okay.
And
So I think
follow
we're
up.
4-0 now.
so we have no idea when it's getting patched or rectified. But
Well,
we're still, it's
staff
been
just got
approved,
the-
but it's.
Staff just got
we're
the
no
marching
closer.
orders half an hour ago.
Okay, and correspondence, the ugly tower. No further ahead either. Okay, fabulous.
Thanks, Lisa.
Yeah.
We're on it.
Oh, the dude that got paid.
Oh,
The applicant, we paid for applicants to come in?
yes. How else do you get them here?
Well, I don't know.
One of the CAO candidates in the first go round.
In the first go round, we paid almost $1,000, but we can't patch a road. Okay, thanks guys.
Well, maybe you should have that particular candidate.
Gosh, you didn't cover my gas.
Let's move on.
Let's keep moving.
Not you too.
This is a regular council meeting.
Okay. So we are now done with public questions and comments, and we'll move to resolution that the meeting be closed to the public under the authority of the Community Charter, Section 91, obviously, A, C, E, I, and L, and 92B. I'm not going to cross reference what those are. We'll find out in a second. Can I have a motion? And a second. All in favour. Opposed? That carries.